I can't almost believe it, but I believe that this is the last video for Chelly. Depending on how fast it gets sold, it might be in the background, but my plan is that we're gonna round this off, do what we need to do to make this sellable, and put it up for sale and hopefully get rid of it as soon as possible. So I'm gonna do some small stuff here today. Gonna put in a new dipstick tube that I bought this morning. Gonna see if I can raise the suspension a little bit here in the rear, which we're gonna look at. Gonna clean it out, obviously. We have to wash it, it looks horrible. I would like to take some spray paint and spray over this so it looks a little bit better. I don't know why it says white overspray, but yeah, some small stuff. Probably gonna change the battery because I wanna keep that, so yeah. Some overall small stuff, and obviously we're gonna try and test drive it. So yeah, let's start working. New dipstick tube in, and I mean it fit if I just put it in, but it took such a wide turn out to here somewhere, so this bracket would never fit anywhere unless like on the heater core or something. But anyway, some bending back and forth and it is in place, so that's good. Now I can see that I am missing some oil, so I had to add some. And you can also see that it's pretty oily here on the header, so I really believe that we pushed some oil out of that hole when we revved it yesterday, so it was good that I didn't drive it like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some oil to that, but other than that I think we're done under the hood. So now we can continue with something else. So now I'm gonna go ahead, jack the rear up and see if we can push up the suspension a bit. Okay, so the rear suspension on Chelly. Obviously the rear coil springs are very worn out, they're sagging, they're soft, and I don't really want to spend $250-300 for new springs right now, if that even is enough. So what I did instead is I bought a pair of these for $20 each. So we're gonna put this in the coil springs. I've seen this before and I've actually done it before, and it works really great. You get some more stiffness in the springs and you get some added height. So I have measured and we have about 24.5 inches of clearance, about 62 centimeters from the wheel arch to the floor. So we'll see if we can get it relatively straight. I want to call it, in Sweden we'll call it a rally hang when it sits so low in the rear. So I want to get it as straight as possible. So we'll see how much the footballs, or American footballs as we say over here, how much they can do. Both footballs are in place and it is higher. It's not straight, but we didn't really get as much as I thought we would. We had about 24.5, now we're at 26, so 1.5 inches or about 4 centimeters. So I was hoping to get a little bit more, so I think I'm gonna try and lift it up, put in some more pressure into the footballs. I put the 2 bars now, so try and go up some more, but also some idiot, in other words me, took the exhaust under the rear axle, so obviously we can't lift it all that much, but I'm gonna see if we can get it a little bit higher at least. I went up from 2 bar to 2.8 bars, but it didn't make any difference. It probably became a little bit harder in the rear, but I think that's only gonna help us. So I'm gonna leave it here. It differs about 2 centimeters between the wheel arches from the front to the rear, which is just below 1 inch. What is it, like 7/8 of an inch or something? So I would say that is good enough. I'm not gonna do anything more. What we could do, if we had the exhaust properly over the rear axle, we could drop the rear axle more if we just lifted it in the bumper, and we could expand the balls when the coils are more apart. That would probably help us a bit, but yeah, I don't care enough to do that. I think it's good. It doesn't sag as much, and probably now that we have some stiffer springs, we might get rid of the wheel hop that started to become an issue now that we welded the rear diff. So I mean, it's better and it was cheap, so I'm really happy with that. So we're gonna leave the rear springs, and gonna do one more thing here on the engine that I forgot to do when I was here last, and that is I want to plug in the crankcase ventilation. And I forgot to tell you yesterday, but we had some crankcase pressure obviously, but this engine is from an 80s, I think it was an 86 Blazer, and it was changed in that car because, or that truck, because it smoked. So I mean, it wasn't a good engine, so it got stored as a bad engine. So I mean, we might have some rings that have stuck and causes our crankcase problems. So if we go out, drive it, we might get them to unstuck if they're stuck. I'm not saying that they are, but and our crankcase pressure will become a little bit less, but we'll see. But anyway, I would like to have that crankcase vacuum to suck some of that out, so we don't have that much breathing in the engine bay. So with that said, this is a marine carburetor that don't have a provision, or it has a provision, but it don't have a connector for the crankcase. So we're gonna fix that. Here we have the carb, and this is a marine 600 Edelbrock, which basically is the same as a car Edelbrock, but we don't have the distributor vacuums, we don't have the crankcase vacuum, and originally it didn't have vacuum for the brake booster, which I have already put in. So now we have to make this, and it is obviously closed off now. We can see that it is solid here underneath, so we have to drill that. Then we have to find a suitable metal piece that fits in this and also fits in here. Push that in, glue it with some gaskets, sealer or whatever, so that we can use this. So I'm gonna fix that. Hole drilled, and I found this thing. It's a power steering return line end fitting. So I mean, looks original, so that's really great. So now I can just put this back in the car and plug it in. I was just going to show you here that I got the carb on, but then I got a phone call saying that my new project will be here in 30 minutes. So I'm really excited for that. So that will be coming up. But while we wait for that, I have obviously fixed the carb. So all of that is done. I would say that we are 100% done with the engine swap. So the only thing I want to do now before we take this out in traffic and try and drive it is I want to try and tidy up the engine bay a little bit. So I'm just going to take some sanding, what do you call these things. So I'm just going to go over it with some of these and just spray bomb it with black so it looks a little bit better at least. So see how good it can look. I'm not sure if you can call this cheating or whatever, but it's hard to argue that this doesn't look better than that. And this will look a little bit better even when it dries up and isn't as shiny. So yeah, just gonna spray everything. So everything happens at the same time here. I have my new project here before me, but you can also see the Blazer here in the background that we are going to be working on the next 2 weeks or so. We're gonna look at that, but of course, first of all, we are going to look at this thing. And before I tell you the story or what this is, and show you the condition, I just want to tell you how it came to be that I bought it. This thing came out for sale for I think it was about the equivalent of $6,000 here in Sweden. And as I said before, it was very far from me. And I thought that this thing is going to sell immediately regarding to what it is. But it didn't sell. And then I made an ad that I wanted to buy a project. And the guy that had this thing contacted me and offered this to me for $5,000. And it was too far, and I wanted to buy it, but it just wasn't the right time. So I didn't buy it at that moment. And a few months later, I saw an ad for a drivetrain, a 383, 727, 8 3/4 rear end. And I was thinking I was going to buy that for the satellite. So I contacted him, or I was going to write him a message on Messenger, but then I realized that it was the same guy that I talked about the car. So I called him and asked him if he was going to junk it and sell it for parts. And he said that he actually had been inspired by my NASCAR videos, and he was planning to put another chassis under it instead, but he was willing to sell it. And I asked him, because I didn't remember, so I asked him what was the price we discussed earlier, and he said, for you I can sell it for $4,000. And I was like, I can't pass that up. So I first of all did some research, because this thing has been in Sweden for 10 years, and the title is sent in to the Swedish DMV, or the equivalent of that. And I had to do some checking just so I can register it in my name, and that was no problem. So I bought it. Hard to film with gloves. I'm freezing my hands off right now. So that's how it came to be. So what do we have here? We have a 1970 Super B, Dodge Super B. And what I really liked about it is just that it is a Super B. It has all the Super B things, and it is a 70. And I gotta say, I've never been a fan of the 70 front end, but it definitely has a charm to it. It doesn't look like any other B body, so that I think is really, really cool. And as I said, the price was right. So as I said, this has been in Sweden for 10 years and no one has done anything about it. And it is, what I also like about it is so complete. I haven't found anything missing on it. It has the 383, it has the 727, it might be matching numbers, we're gonna check that later. But we have the hood scoops, we have the rally dash cluster with everything there, we have the whole interior. It's in bad shape, but it is here, all the door panels, everything. And here we have the trim for the rear window, here we have the rear window. It has some rust in the roof, and the reason I'm not going to say that it was the reason I bought this thing, but if we think about our other projects, we have the Chevelle in here and we have the satellite. Both of these are very rusty, and the Super B is also very rusty, but these two are very rusty in the roof. The Chevelle is also very rusty in the floor. The satellite has decent floors, and it's much easier to fix floors than it is to fix roof. So I really believe that if I paid like $3,000 or something in floor parts with shipping and everything, I could make this into a driver. And obviously we need to fix some rust here in the rear window, because that's standard for Mopars, but this is really the least of our worries. So that will be really easy to fix. And obviously what makes this look so bad is that the rear leaf hangers have gone through the floor. The whole floor has folded. That's why the bumper sits like it is. So obviously we have some work to do there. But as you can see, it's a stripe car. I have the Super B logo here on the rear. So something I like about it is that this, compared to everything else I have, this actually left the factory as a cool car. I mean, the Chevelle, it was a 307 power glide car, nothing fancy at all. The satellite, I think, was a small block car, nothing special. But this really is a big block Super B by the numbers. I mean, this thing is actually worth restoring back to its original condition, which isn't boring because it's actually a cool car. With the Chevelle, I mean, who wants a 307 with a power glide? I might as well put in the 400 and a 4-speed, but with the Super B, you already have everything that is cool. And I have checked the numbers on the the little plate with the numbers. I can't remember the name right now, but the option tag, and it has a 391 with a sure grip in the rear, or had originally at least. So it has a bunch of cool stuff. And I mean, if we restore this, painted it blue with the stripe, it would be a really cool car. So I'm really happy with my purchase. So yeah, that's about it with the Super B. Unfortunately, we have the Blazer here right now, so I won't be able to do much with the Super B right now. But what I want to do is I want to try and start the engine, of course. It is stuck right now, but he has only tried to crank it over on the pulley or the crank bolt. So I think if we remove the cover for the transmission, we could turn it over there with some pry bar. But I'm gonna go ahead and open the hood here so we can look under there. So as you can see, the hood is pretty bad. It's folding here. That hood hinge doesn't want to go up. But we can see under here that we have a big block. Probably, hopefully, the matching number is 383, but we have to see about that. But what I really like about this, you can see everything is here. All the brackets, all stuff. Probably the original carb, all the kickdown linkage to the transmission, and yeah, just everything is here, and that I am really thankful for. So obviously this is stuck, but he has only tried to turn it over on the bolt, so we'll see if we can turn it over on the flex plate instead. But or the torque converter is on this thing. But even if this engine is junk, I am still really happy with my purchase. I'm so satisfied with what I paid for this thing and what I got in return. And I mean, it's a piece of shit. That's you can't lie about it. But this thing is really worth putting in the hours, putting in the money, and just I can just see it as an investment, because whatever I do to it, it will become worth more money. And if I get it on the road, street legal, even if it isn't restored, it will still have a decent value, since it is a Super B and a B body Mopar. And if I want to go the route and do an original restoration, this will be a really good investment for the future. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to go about this project, what the future will be for it, but I'm really excited and I'm really happy that it is here. But unfortunately, we can't do that right now because we have to work on that Blazer instead. So we will see when we can get back to the Super B. I think that the K5 will take about 2 weeks to finish. We'll see. But after that, we can try and get the Super B running, and then we can take it from there. So for now, I'm just going to park it and we will work on it later on. So I'm going to go ahead, take Chelly out of the garage and put that thing in there so that we can look at it and yeah, in the warmth of the garage, and we can talk about the K5 in there instead. We're here in the garage again, and I thought that we're just gonna drive Chelly out of here, but I forgot that we had to do some stuff. But I have fixed everything here. So the engine bay is done and it looks really, really good. I mean, it's not gonna win any awards, but it looks a hell of a lot better than it did before. So we're done with that. I have filled it up with more oil so that it matches on the dipstick. And I have also changed the steering wheel to one that I won't mind getting rid of and keep that one. I have vacuumed the car and just done what I can to make it as presentable as possible. So the only thing we really have to do before putting it up for sale is we have to wash it, obviously, because it looks like crap. So also we have to take it for a test drive and see that everything works, but it should. And I'm probably going to end up driving it for a few days just to see, so everything is up to, what am I going to say? Everything works. So I'm going to go ahead, drive this out of here. Going to clean the garage, push the Blazer inside, and yeah, do a lot of pushing around stuff. And yeah, I'll be back when basically we have the K5 into the garage. This day has just flown by because we worked on Chelly this morning, then the Super B arrived, and just as the Super B was unloaded, the Blazer arrived, and then I had to sell an engine and I had moved around a bunch of stuff, but finally the K5 is here into the garage. So this thing actually has a bit of a fun story. If you go back to my first videos, my first ever videos posted to YouTube on this channel, you can see this thing when it was together, and I actually owned this, and then I sold it to the person that has it today because we needed to build a new house, so we needed all the money we could get, so this got sold. But I bought this thing on an island out the coast of Sweden. that belongs to Sweden, and it had a 454 big block in it, and it was a decent truck, but obviously you could see it had a bunch of repair done in the like 80s or something. But I managed to get it inspected, street legal and everything, and basically sold it right away to this friend of mine. And he's going on a high-end restoration on this thing, as you can see here on the frame. And the story is with this job is that I promised him to do this like 2 years ago when I was still doing paid work. Now I try to live on the YouTube revenue and the money I earn from flipping cars, buying and selling cars. In case you don't know, I also do exactly the same videos as I do for you here in English. I do in Swedish also, which has a lot more viewers than my English channel. So I make some YouTube revenue from those videos. But I really want to hopefully get my English videos to get some more traction. That's why I keep doing them. But anyway, I promised him to do this as a paid job to have an hourly wage and send the invoice at the end of it. So the thing was, at that moment, this was in a rotisserie, and I have already fixed the windshield frame and all of this that is in epoxy. Here I started work here on the body mount, and I realized that I couldn't fit the body mount without having this thing on the frame. So he got the frame back. I left it for paint, and he has put it all together, as you can see. So now we can start putting in the body mount. And also what we realized is that he wanted to change the whole rear bed sides quarters because they have been patched to hell and back, and I mean they have some weird wheel arches and it's pretty rusty here on the inside also. So he took the decision that he wanted new bed sides, which was a good decision. So we have both new bed sides over there that we're going to put on. I also have new doors that I have already made into convertible doors. We have the original tailgate from this truck that needs some work. And obviously we have a lot of parts. We have the rear bed floor. We have some floor patches that unfortunately doesn't fit because it's pretty weird. But I believe that when they make the patch panels for these, they only make for like an 80s Blazer, and the floor has some differences. The 73 to 75 has some braced floors, like extra rockers, and also from 73 to 77 you had this floor going all the way up here, while in 77 they pushed it back a feet or so to give the back passengers some leg room. So the floor pans we have don't fit straight in, so we have to modify them. We obviously have to do some rust repairs here on the front of the floor, and yeah, we have a bunch of work ahead of us. And he wants, as you can see by the condition of the frame, he wants this to be 100% original and looking good. And when I do rust repairs, I really want them to be invisible. I don't want you to see that it has been rust repaired. So that's why he really wanted me to fix it, because that's how we want it to be. So it's not gonna be just slapping some panels and be good. We're gonna do this as good as possible, so that it's as hard as possible to see the repairs. So that's where we are right now. So it probably will take maybe 2 weeks to fix this thing and make it 100%. I'm not sure. We're gonna save a bunch of time with the rear bed sides, and yeah, we'll obviously have to make a lot of panels also, but it's to a minimum. I always say if there is a panel, buy it, but unfortunately for these, everything isn't made yet. For the first generation Blazer, what is that, 70 to 72, you can buy a whole new body. I think it's like $12,000-$13,000 or something. But if you compare that to him buying all of this sheet metal and then paying me to do it, maybe it's not going to be as expensive, but you don't get far off, and then you have a brand new body instead of a repaired body. So, but unfortunately they haven't made them yet, so that's where we are. So yeah, that's what you can look forward to here in the couple of weeks or whatever. I am gonna work on this 100% until it's done. I'm not gonna push it out and do anything in between. So we're just gonna work on this. And obviously I would like to work on the Super B. I would like to push down the frame rail so I can do some patching there so we can sit properly and start trying to get the engine running and all of that. But unfortunately we have to push that a few weeks. But I mean, we have the car, we have all the possibilities to do that in a few weeks. So that will be all for today. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope you're excited to see some rust repairs in the next couple of weeks. And yeah, we will continue tomorrow and start welding and grinding.